regards to a famous Algerian French rabbi. His name was Rabbi Yehuda Leon Ashkenazi, very famous rabbi of his time. I believe he was a head rabbi also in his position, and we're going to explore some of the highlights of his life here in today's special edition. Over here, we spoke about, I believe, his father, Rabbi David Ashkenazi, only a few days ago, who happened to have also been a famous rabbi. And if you recollect, we recorded that video just before the festival of Sukkot when it started itself. I think he was a chief rabbi of Oran between the years 1930 to 1958, his father was, and was a chief rabbi of Algeria between the years 1958 to 1962. Very prominent positions in of itself. I think he would be coupled with, at one stage in time, or the rabbi before, was Rabbi Moshe Eisenabot, a very, very famous rabbi. In fact, his father, Rabbi David Ashkenazi, was born in the 1898 and passed away in 1983. Very interesting. He would be also a rabbi in Paris and in Oran, also Algeria, and in France. And he had 6 children, and one of them was a rabbi named Rabbi Yehuda Leon Ashkenazi, who we're going to speak about today here in this special edition, as we've spoken about quite a few French Algerian rabbis in this series already. So it's always good to get another rabbi inside the mix. So Rabbi Leon Ashkenazi, I think he was born in the year 1922, so his father would have been nearly 24 years of age when he was born, and he passed away October the 21st in 1996 it was. So I think it's around the time period of his Hilula soon, so we actually happen to be English dates-wise quite close to that at the moment. And he passed away in Jerusalem, in Israel, and he was an educator, a spiritual leader of 20th century French Jewry, very prominent position that was in of itself. So let's explore a few of the highlights of the famous rabbi's life. So it's interesting. Rabbi Leon, his life was, let's say, had 2 different cultures, which resulted in his ability to bridge Western and Jewish frames of mind, which is classified or coined over, you could say, from a descriptive point of view. I think he was born in Oran, and obviously to Rabbi David Ashkenazi, who was the last chief rabbi of Algeria, as I said before. And there was other great rabbis over there at that point in time. There was a rabbi, his mother's name actually was Rabbanit Rachel Tubal. I think she descended from a prestigious rabbinic line of Sephardic Kabbalist scholars. The Tubal family is in itself. Now, one of his ancestors was Rabbi Yosef ibn Tubal, who was a direct disciple of the Arizal, Hari Akadosh, as I say. Another one was another great rabbi, Rabbi Asher ben Jehiel, who was also popularly known as a Rosh. He was a popular actually Ashkenazic leader of the 13th century in Spain. However, I think, yes, that's very, very interesting. So Rav Ashkenazi would study simultaneously in yeshiva and in a French secular high school, it was reported over. So he'd have like a breadth of knowledge. This was in Oran he would study in. He would learn, I think, Kabbalah in Marrakesh in Morocco, and would study philosophy and psychology in the University of Algiers. And later, I think he would move to France, and over there he would study philosophy, ethnology, and anthropology in the Sorbonne in Paris. So from an academic point of view, he really was very much, let's just say, well-bred in studies in of itself. So he was reported by the French Foreign Legion in 1943 it was, so we're talking about 82 years ago approximately, and he would serve in the infantry and unfortunately would be wounded in the Battle of Strasbourg. Now, I think it was after the Second World War was over. He moved to metropolitan France. Over there he would join the Jewish Scouts of France, where he was given the nickname Manitou, I believe, which in indigenous North American mythology means spirit, the great spirit, let's just say, in of itself, probably testifying to his character over here. That's what we have to point out. So I think come on 1946, to the call of someone named Robert Castor Gamzon, he joined the School of Young Jewish Leadership in Orsay. I think this was actually in Paris. I'm not too sure if he himself was there between 1946 and 1969, but maybe it was running between those years. It aspired to establish Jewish spiritual leadership instead of the one perished in the Holocaust. He would meet his wife there, Rabbinit Esther Bambi, let's just say, as well as studied from his teacher and mentor in Orsay, someone named Jacob Gordin. Very interesting enough. Now, he would teach a few years, then Rav Ashkenazi will progress further. So, just within regards to the frame in of itself. So I think he would, if I'm not mistaken, he would teach. He would become a principal of the Orsay School in 1951. It was, so that was prominent, I think, along with Professor Andre Neher, who was the president at that stage in time. And in the following years, his involvement in the Jewish community would grow more and more. He would go on to become the president of the Jewish organization, students' organizations, the UEJF, that would be between 1950 to 1955, the Jewish Scouts movement between 1955 to 1956. He would establish the Center of Academic Jewish Studies between 1958 to 1967. So another, well-grounded position in himself. He was an intellectual figure, so he influenced a French school of Jewish thought called the L'École des Pensées Juives de Paris. It was, let's just say, a spiritual and intellectual movement which developed in Orsay and later around the annual French Jewish Intellectuals Conference and aimed at reviving, let's say, post-Holocaust French Jewry. We spoke about many various rabbis from France who would actually take on leadership roles after the war. So he was one of it. So its main goal was to understand and transmit the Jewish thought of the Torah through, let's say, the use of European, universal, academic, modern thought. Its leading figures were obviously Rabbi Leon Ashkenazi. They had other professors, Professor Emmanuel Levinas, Professor Andre Nahar, Professor Eliane Amoda Levi Valenci, and the writer Elie Wiesel, and someone else called Albert Memmi, respectively. Now, he would meet with various different rabbis internationally, including Rabbi Tzvi Yehuda Kook and Rabbi Baruch Ashlag. Also very interesting enough, they would introduce him to the thoughts of their prestigious fathers, obviously Rav Kook and Rav Yehuda Ashlag. This would actually influence Rav Ashkenazi's thought. And in 1968, following the Six-Day War, he would go on to make Aliyah and move to Jerusalem and become a prominent figure over there once he got to Jerusalem. So that was interesting enough. He would, more things we can say within regards to him, but that was a big move at that point in time. In the Israeli Francophone community, he became very prominent, and he established a Minot Institute for Jewish Studies and the Yair Center for Young Jewish Leadership after the manner of Orsay, let's just say. He emphasized that Am Yisrael's return to Zion had been prophesied by the great prophets of the Bible, that it constitutes, let's say, very much a as it's described over here, just using some notes from Wikipedia, that it's part of the cycle of redemption in the history of the Jewish nation, and that the ones who do not participate in this, let's say, this movement, he said, would miss out on one of the most significant crossroads in the history of the Jewish people. Now, he was worldwide renowned, let's just say, in of itself, in various different fields. Especially, I think he contributed to the field of interreligion discourse. He traveled yearly to Cameroon to the request of Cameroon's president, Paul Biya, who was interestingly acquainted with the Bible and the history of the Jewish people. He met someone named Dalai Lama, Tibet's exile leader, and held close contacts with many Christian priests, he would report over, among which was Professor Marcel Jacques Dubois. He received many awards, among them the Israeli Knesset Award in 1990. 1996, when he died, he was actually eulogized by Rabbi Mordechai Eliyahu, the chief rabbi of Israel, I believe, at that point in time. Since he taught mainly in French, his thought remained concealed to non-French speakers during his lifetime. So that's very interesting. So it was more well known among the French people in of itself. However, following the translation and publication of his lectures in Hebrew, Rabbi Ashkenazi's thought continued, let's just say, to gain new audiences to this day. His disciples included Rabbi Shlomo Aviner, Rabbi Eliyahu Zini, I think someone named Rabbi Uri Shirki, Rabbi Yehuda Tzukerman, Rabbi Yosef Aton, Professor Benjamin Gross, Professor Moshe Halamish, and many more, and will continue spreading, let's just say, the teachings to various Israeli audiences that we have to point out also. So what was his thought exactly? Let's say a word within regards to that, like approaches thought. So his thought can be described as historical and query, let's say, into the meaning of identity of Israel. He would look into, he would strive, let's say, to integrate two opposing worlds, traditional Orthodox Jewish heritage and modern thought and values, while he would remain loyal to both. This achievement was what drew wide and diverse audiences to his lectures over there, which is very interesting. And he would use traditional methods of drush to introduce new ways of understanding Judaism while using concepts and ideas taken from Kabbalah, Midrash, Hasidut, and Gemara, which is very, very interesting enough. So he would have, he would really teach the Torah, Dot, also that has to be prescribed. Also, this is something else that we could describe about him. And it was very famous at his time, in his time period of himself. Rav Ashkenazi claimed that only when acknowledging himself as created can man develop a true and firm moral agenda. That's what's said over on Wikipedia. According to Kabbalistic ideas, man was created and put into this world in order to acquire the life he had received as a gift from Hashem, the Creator, achieving this by treating others with moral dignity and ethical respect that such gift demanded. Rabbi Ashkenazi applied, yet a meta-historical and ethical terminology of Kabbalah principles. He managed all the while to connect an abstract framework of Kabbalah to the moral mundane activities of the Jewish believer. Monotheism becomes a basis for morals, and morals are a crucial element of monotheism. So it's very interesting. He was, he believed, I think, within regards to Jewish identity, that now became a national Israel identity. And upon Kibbutz Galiot, the return and gathering of the exile communities in Israel, the Jewish people has the opportunity to bring the people together, different ways of life or diverse identities, gathered during the exiles among the nations and begin world peace within itself. Now, some of the books that he wrote, so I think he wrote many books in French and also in Hebrew, we have to point out. So let's explore some of the writings. He would do the Hebrew ones, Sod HaIvri. I think there was one, Misped, La Mashiach. This was, I think, in 2006 printed. The Sod Lishon HaKodesh, which was printed in 2007. And then I think the Sod Midrash HaToladot, this was in 2009. Midrash Besod HaHafachim, this was, I think, from Beit Morasha Press in 2009. And also Israel Ma'ayan Uliyat, this was printed, I think, in 2013. And there are various books also in French, including the Ki Mitzion, I believe, and La Parole et l'Echkrit, and so on and so forth. Let's speak a bit about his, he's got a famous student, someone named Rabbi Uri Amos Cherki, who I think is the chairman of the Brit Olam, the World Center for B'nai Noach, a senior lecturer of Machon Meir, and we've been to that Machon Meir here on this channel already, and leader of the congregation by Yehudi in Kiryat Moshe neighborhood of Jerusalem, and published various works. So that's very, very interesting. He was also a prominent rabbi, I believe, in Merkaz HaRab Yeshiva at one stage in time. So that is one of his students. I think he himself actually lived in France as a child. He would move to Israel in 1972 and would study in the Tiv Meir school. His student would, and then eventually he would study under various other rabbis, Rabbi Leon Ashkenazi, Rabbi Yehuda Getz, who would become the Rosh Yeshiva of Yeshiva Bet El, and would also serve in the IDF. And he publicly supported the Jewish leadership faction of the Likud party and the Bayit Yehudi, respected over. Now, one of his rabbis of Rabbi Leon Ashkenazi was Rabbi Yaakov Nachmani, who lived between the years 1871 to 1955. He was a great rabbi. He was a Kabbalist. He was an author in Morocco, respectively. He was born in Marrakesh, and he was one of the great rabbis. He wrote various Torah colossal books, the Beit Yaakov, the Lekach Yaakov, the Ma'at Dvash, the Ruach Yaakov, the Tov Ta'am, Ma'im Ganim, various other books. And he was actually a Talmid of various great rabbis, Rabbi Eliezer Halevi, Rabbi David Switzer, Rabbi Mordechai Asbaoni, and he had Talmudim himself of Rabbi Levi Saadia Nachmani and Rav Yehuda Leon Ashkenazi, obviously the rabbi we're speaking about today, and lived in a generation which included Rabbi Avraham Bitbul and Rabbi Yaakov Dahan. Very interesting enough. So, friends, I'm going to leave it here. We're a community. We learned about Rabbi Leon Ashkenazi, prominent rabbi in his places. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the channel. We're nearing a staggering 7,500 subscribers, which is a phenomenal achievement. If anyone is interested in watching these videos, share these videos also, and to other people also. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you for watching.